Right now, as we speak, air traffic control staffing issues are causing delays across the country. From Newark and D.C., Chicago and Houston to here in Phoenix, at least 18 FAA facilities with staffing issues right now. That's despite these cuts to flights. There have been at least 3 close calls at major airports during this government shutdown. Last Friday, American Flight 4 to New York and an Italian airliner took off from LAX on parallel runways just seconds apart. Their takeoffs caught on video. Within a minute, ITA 621 had drifted to the left, dangerously close to the American flight.
American 4, just stop your climb.
Stop the climb, 1500, American 4. I saw him as soon as we climbed up.
Controllers working without pay due to the shutdown intervened.
621 heavy, you should have been runway heading there. Is there a reason you turned to the south?
Sorry, Itaro 621.
The FAA is now investigating this apparent close call. It's the kind of incident Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says prompted the emergency order for airlines to cut 10% of their flights at 40 major airports.
We've seen breaches, more breaches in regard to that loss of separation. We see more incursions on tarmacs throughout the country. And we have more complaints from pilots about stress from air traffic controllers and more complaints about the lack of responsiveness from controllers.
Airlines are slashing 4% of their flights to those airports through Monday. More than 1,000 today alone, about 220 of them from American Airlines.
We know people are traveling for a reason.
David Seymour is American's chief operating officer.
We are doing our best to get them ultimately to their destination.
How concerned are you about the safety of the system today?
We share the same safety concern. I appreciate the fact that they saw some change in that data and they're taking action to ensure that flying stays safe.
For flyers, a week of looming cancellations means increased uncertainty and delays due to surging controller sick calls occurring with little warning.
I'm super nervous just because I have one of the last flights out of here tonight, so if it's canceled, I'm stuck.
Now, American says they have notified anyone whose flight's been canceled all the way through Monday. On Tuesday, that cancel percentage goes to 6%. On Thursday, 8%. And then Friday, we hit that 10% number that DOT wants about a week before the start of the Thanksgiving holiday rush.
Oof. Chris Van Cleve, thank you.
Shalom, shalom, everybody. I hope all is well with you and yours. What a wonderful day it is to be again with you. All praises to the Most High. First of all, it's a beautiful day because we have the Basora, the good news. So the current events, the things that we see going on in the world, yes, it looks dark. However, then there is the word, we have the Basora, which is the good news. There's the world's account, okay? When it comes to the world, you know who is the master of the world. So it's always been dark. It's always had a darkness to it. However, when we read the word, we know that there's light. We see the light. And it's all praises because of that. So as children of the Most High, we choose His way. We are striving for greatness. Period. That is just the bottom line. There's a mark that we see in the Most High's word. And guess what? We are striving for that. Today we want to focus on Matthew 24, specifically that 37th verse, because that one is very key to what we're going to be discussing today. When He said that it would be like the days of Noah, directly speaking about His return. He tells His Talmudim, then shall be the coming of the Son of Man. What was happening? What was going on in the days of Noah? Because as dark as it has been on the earth, we all should want to know, what were the days of Noah like? He told them to be careful, that no one deceives them. He tells them that no man knows the day or the hour, not even the Malachim, but Abba, but the Father. Also, if we read from the book of Genesis chapter 6, it tells us quite a bit about the days of Noah. If we look at the 4th verse, it reads something interesting. It reads, there were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of Eloah came unto the daughters of men, they bare children to them. And the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And it tells us that Eloah saw that the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of their heart was only evil continually.
This all came from biblical stuff, though, correct?
Yeah, so the biblical giants, you don't see much of them in the canonical Bible. The Nephilim are mentioned once, and I could talk about them a little bit. But we learn more about giants when the book of Enoch is discovered. And the Book of Enoch was discovered when, like, an adventurer, I forget when it was, maybe 18th century, was looking for the source of the Nile River, which was kind of a big deal at the time. And he found it. And it was somewhere in Ethiopia. And he gets to know the locals there, and they're Ethiopian Jews that have been there for 3,000 years. So he's friendly with them. They take him up to their, whatever you call it, their church, and he sees this giant book. You know, what's like a giant book? What's that? He said, that's the Bible. He said, oh, it's a Bible? They said, no, that's the Bible. You know, when the King James Bible, I don't know how many books it is, like 66 or something like that, where this had over 100 books. And in there were Book of Enoch, the Book of Giants, all this other stuff. So you have Genesis that starts, you know, basically let there be light. But in this expanded Bible, you have all this stuff that happened before then. So we know a little bit about Moses from the Bible, but if you read these other books, you learn all about Moses and Enoch and Methuselah, and these men are all related, you know, and going back this like 10 or 12 generations from Adam, it's all in there. And this kind of ties in with the pseudo-archaeology and how mainstream wants you to stay in your lane. So this book is discovered, and they've had this for thousands of years. There's the story of the Queen of Sheba. There's only a little bit about her in the main Bible, but this expanded Bible has the Queen of Sheba going up to meet King Solomon, and she's fascinated by him, and they fall in love, and she gives him a child named Menelik, and that ties into the Ark of the Covenant and all that stuff. So we have that one story, but it's kind of an outlier. It's, you know, it's Ethiopian Jews, which is kind of strange, but legitimate. But then much later, the Dead Sea Scrolls are found, and then among the thousands of parchment there's the Book of Enoch, copies and copies of it, and the Book of Giants. So the story is that there's these sky gods, and this story, for people who know it, is going to track exactly with the Anunnaki. It's going to track right with it. This Bible story is going to track right with it. So you've got these sky gods, and they send watchers down to Earth, and their job is to shepherd and guide humans, teach them animal husbandry and agriculture and all that stuff. But the watchers become corrupt and fascinated with human women. The Hecklefish says, oh, that's not going to end well. And it didn't.
Reading down at verse 10, it tells us that Noah begat 3 sons. We know this, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was also corrupt before Eloah, and the earth was filled with violence. And Eloah looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Okay, so obviously we see that word corrupt quite a bit. The Hebrew word for corrupt is shahath. And so what does shahath mean? It means in decay, to perish, to spill, to spoil. Okay, there's a lot going on within that word corrupt. But it's utterly decaying, and it is also spoiling. In other words, wasting away. We find that there were giants on the earth in those days. It also says here that the sons of Eloah came into the daughters of men, and then they bare children with these women. And of course, they became men of renown. So if you have followed this channel any length of time, you would know that we take into account the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Jasher, of course, the Book of Enoch. These are called hidden books for a reason. So we cross-reference back to those books, and we can look at their account that speaks about the same timeline as Genesis 6.
Most of us are pretty familiar with ancient Egypt. We're pretty familiar with these half-human, half-animal, lowercase g gods that were always depicted. We were all taught, though, that this was just mythology. The truth is that these beings actually existed, and the scarier part is that history is now trying to repeat itself. It is no coincidence that in every single ancient civilization there is some form of a half-human, half-animal being that existed, and these beings were normally worshipped as gods. They were commonly shown to have some form of authority and some form of power. Every civilization, there is always some depiction of some animal-human hybrid, transhumanism, if you will. Now, most people know that the flood during Noah's time was due to the level of evil on earth, and God was done with it. He would not put up with it any longer. But what most people don't think about is the kind of evil that was going on during that time. What exactly was happening that caused the flood? And because God's word is always the truth and the Bible is our true history, we find the answer in Scripture, particularly in Genesis 6. One of the main reasons that you and I are kept from a lot of what is found, a lot of the archaeological sites, a lot of the mummies, actually 90% of the mummies you and I have no access to. And that is because they were the Nephilim. They were the giants. And they don't want you and I to know that everything in our history that has been found relates directly back to the Bible. They didn't just wear these headdresses because they were cool. They wore them like that because their actual heads, their skulls, were elongated. What do you think would happen if they released all of the mummies to the general public and we all saw that they looked like this? So God wiped them all out.
In the book of Genesis, it tells us that the sons of Noah took wives of human women, producing Nephilim. Nephilim meaning giants. So there are those that would say that no, this is impossible. There's no way that a Malachim could have a child with a human. However, the Bible tells us to be very careful how we treat strangers, because we could be entertaining an angel unknowingly. We also find Malachim, or angels, throughout the word that are moving around on the earth, traveling around on the earth in the form and in the likeness of men. We find in the book of Jude, which is, of course, our Savior's brother. He is referencing back to the book of Enoch as well. Yehuda, right? Jude being short for Judah, is referencing back to the very same account in the book of Enoch. Enoch 6:1-2, it reads, "And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the Malachim, the children of Shamayim, in other words, the angels from heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose himself one. And they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of woods, and made themselves acquainted with the plants." It reads here that they went unto them. This is a Hebrew expression for sexual union or even defiling themselves. Looking at the book of Jubilees, the 5th chapter and the 2nd verse, it reads, "Lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders."
We are living at this time where we're being encouraged, indoctrinated, coerced, mandated sometimes to embrace the technology outside of our bodies, because we have been conditioned to believe that we are a broken, flawed form of life. And you're seeing this play out in the AI conversation. You're seeing it play out in what's called the transhuman movement, the intentional movement to replace our humanness with computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood, RFID chips under the skin. And it's all playing out right now, Joe. The experts are saying unless we change our trajectory right now, we very probably are the last generation of pure humans that the world will ever know. That by 2032, when you go to the supermarket or go to the airport, the people you talk to will be some hybrid, maybe some more and some less, but will have some kind of technology embedded into their bodies. When we replace our natural biology with synthetics, our natural abilities begin to atrophy.
So we see hybrids going on. We see Malachim and daughters of men. We also find all flesh, meaning cattle, beasts on the earth, were also coming out of order and mixing with one another. We find that this agrees with the book of Jasher in the 4th chapter, 18th and 19th verse. And this is what it reads. "And the judges and the rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force. And they taught the mixing of animals of one species with another, in order therewith to provoke Yah." So we find in the book of Enoch that in the days of Noah, men's hearts are desperately wicked. They are evil. We find this hybriding going on with all flesh. And you also find a decaying of man. When you say corruption, it's talking about his decaying. The Hebrew word being sakath is getting worse. And so it's not growing, it's not prospering, but it's getting worse. And these are the things that you want to look for in the last days, which will look like the days of Noah, according to our Messiah, as we referenced earlier.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
this is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, you know, it's always, I don't know, you know, yeah, transhumanism is this, you know, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses, and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's, man, it's so pathetically little. And okay, we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self. And so,
right. But the other, wait. I generally agree with what I think is your belief that religion should be a friend to science and ideas of scientific progress. I think any idea of divine providence has to encompass the fact that we have progressed and achieved and done things that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. But it still also seems like, yeah, the promise of Christianity in the end is you get the perfected body and the perfected soul through God's grace. And the person who tries to do it on their own with a bunch of machines is likely to end up as a dystopian character.
There are those who believe that transhumanism will take humanity to another level, and they are completely convinced that that's what's going to happen. We find technocrats that are convinced that transhumanism is the way, that in the long run it will transform the world that we know of further than the Most High could ever take them. We have to be careful that we're not deceived. I see technology as a gift that was given from the Most High, that we have been allowed to use to enrich us, but bowing down and giving him the glory for it, to help us along the way. We have these powers in us. As Hebrews, we have superpowers within us already by way of the Ruach HaKodesh. So learning the technical aspect of that has always been intriguing to me. However, what we are seeing is not that. It is those wicked ones still playing from the same playbook. However, we know that the Most High is not playing. He's not playing a game. He is the real deal. Okay? And he has a final say.
Trump claims he ended 8 wars in 8 months, including fighting in the Democratic Republic of Congo between military forces and the rebel M23 group, backed by neighboring Rwanda.
The Congo, we settled the Congo with Rwanda. That was a machete war. That was a gruesome war. Many people, close to 10 million people killed. We got that settled.
But that's not what we have heard from people on the ground in Masisi, in the east of the country. We spoke to victims of the war being treated at the local hospital. The front line is not very far from here, so are you still getting people?
Last week we received 10 violent trauma cases in quite a short time period.
Among the injured, Odetta Nzabimana and her family. They were hit by shrapnel when a bomb exploded near their home. One of their children was killed in the blast.
Kuchiwanja na sisi tulikuwa tunajichinga masasu juu ya manyumba, ikanikutania pale, kapiga migulu miwili na mtoto na kata mtumbo na papa hii lupande yote na mtoto hii mkichwa na mwingine likitosha hiki chote alikufa ule. Tulikuwa pamoja pale. Sina mpango wa kurudia nyuma. Vita ichingali sana.
We had exclusive access to rebel-held areas and saw for ourselves how M23 are trying to win hearts and minds. We drove on this very same road in February this year, and the condition was horrendous. It took us about 9 hours to travel about 60 kilometers. but now it takes about 2 hours. The rebels are keen to project themselves as champions of the people, but is it all a smokescreen covering up violence? We put that to M23's leader.
Aucune de ces organisations qui nous accusent des crimes n'a été sur le terrain pour attester ces crimes-là. Aucune. Nous faisons face à un front médiatique de la part du régime de Kinshasa et certaines organisations internationales qui sont à sa solde.
To watch our full report, search Channel 4 News on YouTube.
Mishpacha, when you look at violence on a global-wide scale, violence is rampant. We know that throughout time, we know that there has been world wars, but what you find now is different. It is not just nation against nation, it's not tribe against tribe. It has become the norm within society, within the inner workings of the village, inner workings of the community, within people's homes. The matrix is crashing, Babylon is falling.
Look carefully at the guy in the green. Hit at speed, but then gets himself up. At least 20 people have now been killed in anti-corruption clashes in Nepal, with hundreds more injured.
Corruption! We are fighting against corruption! This is the motto of our protest, fighting against corruption!
High-velocity water cannon and tear gas were the weapons of choice for police against what organisers have dubbed the Gen Z protests. So how did this all start?
More than any other time in history, you need to run to the Messiah, repent to the Father, and make Yah number one in your life. Today I have a message for somebody watching and listening. The Most High wants me to share with you that the enemy is at work. He wants to squash you. He wants to destroy your spirit. He wants to remove what the Most High is doing in your life. He can never do that because the Most High has you. He has you chosen. You are set apart. You are the Kodesh. You are His. Don't believe the lie of Hasatan. Wake up to who you are. Keep your eyes set on Him. I pray you got something out of this message today. As always, family, enjoy yourself in the Most High. Enjoy your loved ones. Enjoy those around you. Remember not to let anyone steal your joy. Until next time, shalom, shalom. Family, thank you for tuning into the channel. If you got anything out of this topic, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share as we continue to spread the truth. It definitely helps us to grow the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we upload a new video. May the Most High bless you. And as always, shalom, shalom.